Hi guys, Andy N, Spoken Label, back in the house on a wet Sunday afternoon. But hey ho, it's what it is. So we're in podcast world today. Now we're over to North Devon today. And I have been to actually, and this young gentleman with me doesn't know that. I went down there as a child and with mum and dad actually when I was about 2. And it rained all the time, so it made me feel like I was at home in Manchester.
Yeah.
Now, we've got a wonderful Joseph J. Jordan with us today. Now, Joseph is obviously just brought a book out, and we're going to talk about that. But before we get there, Joseph, tell people a little bit about yourself. Obviously, I think it's probably best if you start off, you tell people, obviously, about your mother as well, because obviously I think she was a major influence in your creativity. And it's a mother that I think people probably will know as well.
Yeah, yeah. A lot of people do. Yeah, so I was sort of born into basically the centre of the music industry. My mother's Elkie Brooks, and originally that was you kind of grow into that sort of lifestyle. But obviously for me, growing up, it was completely normal. You grow up on the road, surrounded by creative people, and I spent until I was about 16 years old, I think, touring the world with my mum. Incredible childhood. It did mean that I didn't go to school, so I was homeschooled, which back then, I'm 35 now, but back then that was quite sort of left of field, you know.
Yeah, it's very unusual then, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a few people frowned upon that, but it also meant that I had an unconventional education. So that kind of led to me going into the modelling and acting world. I looked for different things, obviously tried to follow in my mum's footsteps a bit, because I think that's everyone said I should do that. It was kind of like, you've got to do that. But I kind of realised that sort of world wasn't for me. So I went paragliding instructing, skiing instructing. That took a big part of my life. And then I think I was about, I don't know, I was about 28, something like that. And I thought I better get a real job. And I don't have any qualifications or anything apart from my paragliding and skiing instructing. So I set up a clothing business, so obviously worked for myself. That went really well. I sold that on, and then I started the country's first plastic-free gift hamper business, which I co-founded with a fabulous friend of mine, Jill. We've had that for about 4 years, and we're just selling that now. But of course, then sort of COVID-19 hit, and everything just completely stopped. And obviously, my business was completely tourist-based. And I've all of a sudden there was no tourists coming down to North Devon. And it was like, oh God, I've got all this time on my hands. What do I do? So I did something that I always really desperate. I tried doing it, I think I was about 21, something like that. And I gave up, and I was write a book. I didn't tell anyone I was doing it. I didn't tell my own mother I was doing it until it was finished. And I went down the self-publishing route. I published it, told everyone eventually, which was terribly nerve-wracking. So I didn't want to tell any of my friends. I thought, because you walk down the street and everyone's going to know. I was like, oh, don't want anyone to read it. It's a really weird sort of thing. Anyway, people enjoyed it. The British Empire of Magic, my first trilogy. And it really went very well. Went to the first book went to, I think it was number 5, and then eventually crept up the charts. And and first, second, and third book was number 1 on the Amazon charts. And then I thought, well, I think this is going to become a career. And so I just kept writing, which is I'm now writing my second trilogy, the Clima-Race.
Yeah, we're going to come on to that in a moment, definitely. Yeah. So yeah, now obviously, like you said, when you wrote the first book, obviously, obviously, did you actually plan that to become a trilogy, or was it always going to be a one-off and see how you realised as you were writing it?
Yeah, I left it. It was kind of it was weird things. There was no pressure on me, right? So it's not like it is now where I've actually got deadlines and things like that.
I know them well. That's all I'm going to say, that I know them well.
Like, which I'm already behind a deadline at the moment. So yeah, but I kind of left the ending where I could, if it went well, I never envisaged it to do well at all. So I kind of left the ending open. But then, of course, so many people bought it and loved it. And I thought, crikey, I better get writing a second and a third. So yeah, it kind of went into that. So I like writing. It's a novella trilogy, so they're short stories. About, I think the shortest one's about 30,000 words. So yeah, they're quick to get through, but and they're great fun to do a trilogy because you can really explore where the story's going a little bit more, perhaps.
Yeah, certainly. Like I said, obviously, I've read the first one of your new trilogy, so obviously, I'm
Yeah.
going to we'll talk about the comparisons and that in a little bit. Then,
Mm.
obviously, certainly. So, yeah, I've certainly when I read the book you sent to me, yeah, I got for that pretty quickly in a couple of days. It was brilliant, really short, sharp, and snappy.
Yeah.
So, did you envisage at the time, and obviously with both of these series, they would be like novellas, or did you try writing these grandiose 2,000, 100,000 word novels? Did you then realise after 30,000 words? No.
I think I'm quite a pragmatic person, and I thought I didn't want to take on a project that was too big, and that's why I like it's achievable when you think about 30,000 or 40,000 words for a book. When you start writing it, for me, it's definitely now, it's a lot more achievable. But that's not to say I'm not going to do a full novel later. I'm actually, after I finish the Clima-Race, I'm revisiting my first trilogy and doing a standalone novel, which is going to be
Oh.
really fun to do. I'm really looking forward to doing that. But I think it's a lot more achievable. I always suggest that for new writers: try a novella first, and then go to a novel.
Yeah, well, tell us about then. Obviously, it's fascinating that you've gone into, like I said, when you got to your stage you're at now. Had you been writing before that? Had you, or was it just something you'd base almost started from scratch almost?
Like I think when I was about, as I say, about 21 or something like
Mm.
that, I started writing a completely different story, which I will actually revisit because I really loved it. And I got about 60 something thousand words in, and I had an electrical storm at my house, lovely North Devon in the winter.
Oh no,
And
I can well imagine that. Yeah. Oh God, is it
yeah, and it was
can't
before the
have the
days of
candles basically?
exactly, and it was before the days of iCloud and backups and everything like. And like an idiot, I didn't back up my
Oh no.
computer, and my iMac got struck basically by lightning, and the whole hard drive was wiped, and I lost the entire book, 60 odd thousand
Oh
words
no, that
gone.
made me cry. Made me cry. That.
Yeah, so that put me off writing until I was 31 or 32. I can't remember how old I was when I first started. So whenever the lockdown, so no, I was 33. So it took me a long time, over a decade to actually revisit that. And
Oh.
crikey, do I back up now?
Oh yeah, you learn to, like I said, because I'm a poet really, and
Mm,
I've got my first. I'm trying to get my first novel done myself, and it's like it's taking forever. But
yeah,
I'm quite slow with those stuff. But you're right
yeah,
of it. It's you learn to back things up, and I've
yeah,
done it before now, and I've lost files, and I'm
yes,
sat there thinking, shit.
yeah. Yes, quite. It's really it's a very, like, it's like a sickening, disgusting, nauseating feeling that you'll ever feel. It's horrible. Yeah, back up,
Oh
back up, back up.
God, yeah, completely. Now, obviously, talk about. I don't know much about your first trilogy. I've not read it, of course, but obviously, like I said, when it been three little novellas like that, did you write them all pretty well back to back? Did you then?
Yeah, I pretty much did. When I published the first one, and then I left it about 2 weeks afterwards, and then I got straight into the second one, and then when the second one was finished, I literally went the next day straight into the third one.
Oh, bloody hell!
Um,
Wow.
Yeah, because it was all up here, it was all done and dusted. I cycle a lot. I'm a triathlete as well, so I spend like 4.5 hours on the bike training, and your brain is it's one of the best sports in the world for letting your brain just spin. And so I'd written all three books pretty much on all those rides. So I had it all up there. I just needed to get down on paper.
Yeah, no, I get straight away. I know I'm a lot like that myself. When if I'm out and down traveling and I don't have pen and paper on
Yeah,
me, I'm going crazy. You just start
yeah,
building like stirring in your head, isn't it? So that's why it is
absolutely,
like.
yeah,
Yeah, it's Amanda's a lot like it's my wife actually, and she's a novelist as well, and she's always telling me
yeah,
like she can have pieces just building up and up and up. Yeah, and that's clear.
yeah.
I can see what's happening to yourself here now. Obviously, like, I want to know about obviously then what led you to the Clima-Race, because I know obviously I can see this is talking quite directly about climate change as well.
Yeah.
So obviously this is something as obviously I can see from knowing you as a person, something that you've been
Yeah.
interested in for quite some time.
Yeah, I think it's living on the coast, right? And I think the one of the things that struck me first about it was actually the plastics in our ocean, because we're just doing beach cleans all the time here, and it's just ridiculous the amount of plastic that just keeps getting washed up on the shores. And obviously, pre-COVID, it was on the news everywhere. I think Sky News were doing this special every single day before COVID about plastic ocean
Oh God.
protection, and it was just in everyone was trying to reduce plastics, and of course COVID hit, and it just got, obviously the world changed, right, and everyone's priorities changed. It was about living in for the moment, a little bit more. And I think everyone kind of gave up on the whole protecting the oceans. And also, it's seeing our climates, our seasons are disappearing. I think in the UK, we're not really having I don't think it's not as cold as it used to be.
No, it's not.
Our summers are definitely hotter.
Yeah. I know. I boil all the time this summer. I know. Get right with that one. Yeah. Oh God.
And I'm just noticing it more and more. So I wanted to write the next book. I wanted to be completely different from what my previous trilogy was, but I also wanted to do something that was perhaps, because obviously it's my young adult audience and children and young adults is my audience. And I wanted to write something that wasn't necessarily doom and gloom about climate change, but it was educating them. It was throwing light on the subject, but also the premise of hope that, perhaps there could be, because obviously the books are set in 2100. So it's kind of follow the trajectory that we're on right now, which is like, we're not doing enough kind of thing. And so I kind of researched what the planet was going to look like in 2100 if going the way we are, and it's very depressing. So true. I tried to throw a different light on how we combat that. It's, obviously it's a fictional book, so it's just a different way of looking at it. So basically, the point is I wanted to educate, throw light on the subject without it feeling like they're being bashed over the head about, save the world, save the world, save the world. So I wanted to give that kind of experience to the audience.
I think you got it dead right as well, because like I said, particularly with the character Isabel Hope in it, which I like the fact you put Hope at that as a surname, actually.
But I thought it was a bit on the nose.
I thought that was subtly done, that one. But no, I felt myself on what series I liked about the book was you weren't preaching about it, and I think you could have easily preached really quite heavy on this book. You didn't, and that's credit to you, that one straight away, Josie, for that. So now I've got to ask you also, well, we always look at characters in books.
Yeah,
you always got to be part of yourself in it. So is Isabel in it quite an extension of you, is she?
No, because my first books, there's a character in my first books. Absolutely, it's a lot of me in that. The actual character of Isabel Hope is a mixture of of a friend of mine and my mother, and I put those two people together. And Isabel Hope was born, kind of thing. And what I love about creating characters is that whilst that you have influence from people in real life, by chapter 2, chapter 3, their own personality starts to develop, and they're very much their own individual. So yeah, I think the embryo was definitely one of my friends and my mother, but now she's definitely her own person.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree with that. It's always the best way. I think you always end up definitely basing something on kind of something that impacts your life, and
it makes it tangible. It makes it real, to
you. I think dead right of it. And then I've done it myself. Stories like it. After a while, the character finds their. It's almost like they find their own feet, don't they, and stuff like that. So yeah. Did you find enough to be setting this in the near future? Not obviously nowadays. You said you have to do a lot of research to this, and did it take you like you have to make? I know I've often done stories where I have to write another story, building the world up almost before you can actually write it. Did you find that a lot with this series?
Yeah, I think that there's so much research out. That's one of the great things about the subject, is that loads of people, very much smarter, brighter people than me, have so much information out there to absorb. The problem comes with that is there's so much information. I was very conscious about not putting all that research I did about climate change and bogging the book down in technical babble, because people don't really want to know how, they just want to know the result. And so I tried to make it as accurate without explaining too much in the book, because it just, frankly, it gets boring.
I agree.
To me and the reader, and that's not what they're reading the book of. That's not why they're buying the book. They're buying the story. So I just wanted to make sure there was some factual predictions of what the future was going to look like, and I kind of did enough research to make sure there was that, but I didn't want to overload the reader.
Yeah, no, straight away. But I think the market you're aiming for is like the story comes first. I think you've probably got enough information to do a non-fiction book on it, I suspect, in the future, maybe.
Really? Yeah. As I say, it's actually very depressing. But
well, I'm starting work tomorrow at a new day job, actually, and I'll tell you the name later. And it's a sort of company that definitely would interest you as well. So they're doing a lot of research on green products and advising companies where they can and cannot build in certain sorts of land. So definitely, that's why when this book came through, I thought this is perfect for the job I'm stepping into.
Yeah.
And you got quoted on the interview as well when I got the job, actually.
Oh, excellent! I'm glad I helped.
Yeah, unintentional that one. That was should have seen the guy's face that interviewed me. So anyway, I'll tell you about more about off camera. Very, very surreal moment indeed. Now, I said, I've read the first book on it. Now, I don't want to give too much away, obviously, like I said, because obviously there's plenty of corruption flying around this, as I expected, really, regarding humanity itself. Now, there is, I don't want to give too much away again. Like I said, at the end of the first book, I loved the fact you left us on a cliffhanger.
Yes.
Now, and I love cliffhangers, I really do, honestly, Joseph. So, was the cliffhanger always designed to be there for that first book?
Yes,
at the end of it.
Absolutely. There's the big reveal at the end of the first book, and I always wanted to leave the whole of the first book very ambiguous about who this particular character is. And when you look back, once you know what the result, you look back, there is sort of glimpses where you can kind of put two and two together, and you can try and figure it out for yourself. But after in retrospect. But yeah, it was always going to be cliffhanger, and I was so excited when I actually got to write that bit. I was like, oh! But my friend phoned me up who read it, and she said, "I love this book, but how dare you leave us like that?"
I got to the end of it, and I've done this with books before now, where you've had somebody put such a cliffhanger like you have there, and you sat there thinking, and I'm going to swear now, as part of my English, thinking,
yeah,
bastards.
Yeah.
I didn't think that about you, mate, honestly, right? I was thinking, you clever man. That's putting it nicely there, that one. It was a good cliffhanger, and that's the difference. You've read the book yourself, haven't you? Where they put a cliffhanger at the end, and you're thinking, oh, for fuck's sake, not now.
Yeah. That's why I knew the second book had to come out quickly.
Oh, yeah, you can't do that straight. Yeah, you got to move out pretty quickly. That was the best thing to do with that straight away.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's why not. Obviously, in relation to it's been your second trilogy then.
Yeah.
How did the writing compare to the first trilogy then? So, obviously, did you find this flowed a lot easier as a book?
No, actually, I found the first three flowed a little easier. Mainly because the first book is set in such a fictional world, and there's less construct. There's basically you're confined by, when you're writing about the real world. It's a fictional story, but it's in our real world. So you are constrained a little bit about how you can do things. As with my first trilogy, I could create anything. If I was stuck about getting one person to location, I just create something that they can do that, and that was super easy for me. With this, it was, as I say, you're confined a little bit. So the ideas were there. It was just connecting them all together. It was a little more difficult. It's fine now, and now I'm closing out the third book. It's fine. It's all in my head. But yeah, it was a little bit more clumsy for me to write.
Yeah, I think it's probably what I can see with the two books. You touched on the difference, obviously, both heading in the same direction, if you know what I mean, with the field that you want to go for with it. But they're two completely different sorts of topics as books, as you said before. And I think when you're doing that, I think it's interesting, because I'm always a believer of writers. You've got to keep pushing yourself to do something as a reaction to the previous series. So otherwise you end up going around in circles, don't you, really?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's important to keep ideas fresh, because the reader, they're not stupid. Right? They're going to know when you're bored. That's going to come through in your writing. So it's as much for me as it is for them, that I've got to create exciting things to write about in the story to keep me interested, and keep me in love with the characters. Because it's the easiest things. You get bored of a character, you just kill them off.
I've done that before now. Main character as well for 30 pages.
yeah, just like, he's out. But yes, I try to add things in, add a friend to that person to make that character completely different. I did that with the Clima-Race, because there's twins in it, Elijah and Hajile, and I needed, because they're twins and they're similar but different, and so they're interested in different people. So that was fun to write about. So it does come quite clear in the books that they are different people, but they're very much a unit together. They're very close brothers. I based that on my brother and I. My brother's 7 years older than me, but we're exceedingly close. We always have been. So I wanted to create that connection between the brothers that it was really obvious in loving,
Yeah, again, of course, I understand what you mean, because I've got a brother like who's 7 years younger than me to the day.
Yeah.
Would you believe? And that's like really,
Wow, wow, wow.
really, really close. And it's always like in our case that we surprise people, say like, "Oh, you're not twins?" No, they're
Right.
7 years apart from us, almost in a
Yeah, yeah,
minute.
yeah.
You do is like you get that. Yeah, no, I agree completely with that. So, what made you come up with the title then, the Clima-Race, for the
Yeah,
series?
so it's based. So that brings us back to how I wanted to take a new take on. I didn't want it to be a standard apocalyptic, post-apocalyptic book, and how humanity's looking for creating a new sun or something fantastical and technology based. I wanted this to be more biology based. So it's about a race that is born better adapted to live in our world in 2100. So toxicity levels, pollution, UV, resources are going to be finite in 2100. So they need less water, they need less food to survive. So I wanted to create that take on it about how we can adapt as human beings to the world, because they can't fix, really. We haven't got enough time to fix the world before our extinction event. So that I decided to call them the Clima-Race. Again, a little bit on the nose, but it was pretty obvious to do. And so yeah, and I wanted also to create that racism that's we're experiencing in our world at the moment, which is very sad. But you think we progressed a lot in the 2100. So that racism is not necessarily about the skin color, it's about the actual biology of the people. So they're threatened by this new race coming through. Normal people, if you like, are threatened by the Clima-Race. So that's basically the reason it was called that.
No, it's fine. It makes sense. It makes sense completely. So, and I get you completely with that straight away. So, good luck with it, definitely. So, now obviously, start winding down a bit now. There's a couple of questions to wrap up with.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've already been talking about already. What's you're currently working on the third one on this trilogy, aren't you? So, you're telling me off camera for you. You're falling behind a bit already. So,
Yeah.
so where you up to with the third book in this trilogy at the moment? Then?
So I've only got about a quarter of it left to do. And so probably it's going to be much longer, the third book.
Oh, yeah.
So it's probably, so I think we're about 30,000 words in already, and I've probably got another 25 odd thousand words to go at least.
Oh, whoa. Yeah, that's heading like a full novel then, nearly, isn't it? So,
yeah, I think so, because it's I'm introducing a new character to the book who's so important, and I've really got to get into it, that you've got to get your teeth into it, because the whole premise shifts a little bit, and who becomes the real villain out of all of this. So that's you've got to get into that. So that's where I'm kind of at the moment. We were hoping for a Christmas release, but it's definitely going to be January now, unfortunately. Yeah. Sorry, readers.
Sorry, guys. He goes, yeah. He said, if you're hoping to get the one to read over Christmas Day, not this Christmas Day, maybe next Christmas Day.
You can get the first two now, but you have to wait until afterwards.
Oh, well, and I take it obviously then when you've got this one out of the way, you're then going to go into your novel, aren't you? And hinting at before.
That's correct. Yeah. So I'm going to revisit my first trilogy, The British Empire of Magic, because to be quite honest, I think having so many DMs from readers saying, please continue the story, we loved it. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to do it's going to carry on pretty much probably about 5 or 10 years from where it left off, The British Empire of Magic. And it's going to be a full novel. So I'll start probably writing that in February, March. So I'll give myself a bit of about a month off of writing after I've published the Clima-Race. And then I'll get my teeth into it. Be a spring and summer, autumn project, I think.
Yeah, I can't blame you there, because I'm always a believer when you've done a major project like that, you need a bit of time off before you go back to the next thing, don't you? Otherwise, you end up burning yourself out, and it's
absolutely. Otherwise it's just too much. Like I say, you can't kid the reader. The reader's going to know if you're not really wanting to write this book, So I want to be able to write. I'll enjoy it.
Oh yeah, completely. Now, a daft question before we come to the hard sell.
Yeah.
If you had a chance for a film version of the Clima-Race, who would you like in as your lead?
Oh crikey, Bobs! I don't know.
If money was unlimited, right? I'll say it that way.
Oh God, I don't know. I mean, Isabel Hope's obviously the protagonist in the first book. Gosh, do you know what? I don't know. My first trilogy, I've got pretty much that casted out.
Oh, yeah.
We've got actually really excitingly, we've actually got someone interested at the moment. We're just going through negotiate. Just fingers crossed.
Fingers crossed, definitely.
The agent, my agent, is doing her utmost for me, but these things take such long time. She said it could be a year before we even get round the table.
Oh wow!
So,
is it with American production company or a British one? That's all I can ask for. We'll ask at the moment.
It's actually with an American company. Yeah.
Right, we'll say no more then, because if you say anything else, I'm always a believer. You put the kiss of death on it, or you're breaking a legal contract. So we'll keep quiet on that. Well, good luck. So
yeah, that's the actual problem is because I'm with Amazon Publishing. It's not Amazon basically, so we've got dealing with all that at the moment. So, but it's very exciting. So I've just kind of ignored it. But I've allowed myself to dream a little bit on the first trilogy and who I'd cast and things like that. So I always said to my mum, I said, don't suppose you can phone Helen Mirren up for me, could you?
Yeah, please. Oh, brilliant. Great idea. Start looking at who your mum knows. Now,
yeah, exactly.
Obviously, if the first trilogy gets done and your mum crops up in a cameo, I'll remember whose book it is.
Well, Helen actually played my mother in a play. She played my mum in a play called Teeth and Smiles. So,
whoa.
Yeah, so that'd be really cool if she played the character I based my mum on. In a series or a film.
Well, that'll give you one chance of getting into out there.
Exactly.
If Helen Mirren signs up for it, so yeah, brilliant. Okay, mate. We'll let you do the hard sell now, mate, because obviously we're going to start going over famous people, and I wish I knew otherwise. So, and we're completely go off the tangent, which is very mean. Very mean. I think it's very you as well, mate.
Oh no. To be honest, all you got to do if you want to read the books, British Empire of Magic and the Clima-Race are both on Amazon, exclusive to Amazon. And it's my name, Joseph J. Jordan. You can Google that, and it comes up straight away with all the books. And it's there's audio books as well for the British Empire of Magic, which is great.
Oh, I was going to ask you about that. I'm glad you reminded me. I did see the audio books as well.
Yeah.
So tell us about the audio books. And I knew I should have asked you about that. I did spot that. Yeah.
Yeah, it was something that I don't listen to audiobooks. I never have, and I completely ignored that market. So obviously the 3 books, they sold well, and publishers kind of said we need to start looking at the audiobooks. And I was like, really? Does anyone listen to audiobooks? Completely ignorant. And I asked my friend Caroline, who she literally listens to one a week.
Wow, I know Amanda, my wife, does that. She listens all the time.
Yeah, and so many of my friends listened. I was shocked. I was like, right, okay. So we put all the auditions out to have people read, and there was over 100 of people wanted to read the book, and I had to go through all these auditions. And eventually we got Helen McFarlane, who's a lovely, lovely woman, and I gave her poetic license, accents and stuff like that over the book. So I said, because I never envisaged that, so go for it. And she brought characters to life in ways that I never thought about it. Actually, she gave one of the characters, Elliot, a bit of a sort of Geordie accent. Ooh. And I was like, I didn't feel a very, very slight Geordie accent. And I was, oh wow, I can't imagine when I'm writing him in the novel later next year, I'm going to be thinking Geordie accent all the way through.
Oh yeah, well, it impacts you definitely with that one. So Amanda, my wife, she did a zombie novel a couple of years ago.
Oh wow!
And this will like you laughing at him. I said, I'm digressing, but hey ho, right? It's our podcast, right? So,
yeah, exactly.
She did one of the zombie novel, and she ended up doing some similar. She got a young lady coming to do it. We found out afterwards she was only 14.
Oh wow!
And we think like I think she had to get out to clear it with her mother and father, of course, because there's plenty of bad language in it and violence.
Yeah.
But we think she secretly liked it, right?
Yeah. That's great. Yeah,
it does impact.
I still haven't met my narrator. I keep saying because she's up in London, I think, and I've been saying for ages I'm going to come up and see her and have a glass of champagne with her.
Yeah, definitely do that one. We could love it, mate. Definitely. So I know, Joseph. Listen, we better wrap up anyway, mate. So obviously, if people want to find obviously more about you as a person, where do you recommend they go?
Yeah,
to wrap up with.
Just Google Joseph J. Jordan, and I've got a Goodreads page and an Amazon author page, and all my bios there. People can find out as much as they want to read until they get bored of me. And then and obviously all my books are under that name as well. And I'm also on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook as Joseph J. Jordan or Joseph J. Jordan Official. And you'll find me. I'm there.
Really, get in touch with you. You're a great guy. You're a great guy. It's been a pleasure having you on, mate. So we'll get you on when the film version comes out of your first trilogy, definitely. So, anyway, guys and girls, well, that's it for today anyway. So I want to thank Joseph today. It's been a pleasure, and I've really enjoyed this, mate. It's been great fun chatting to you, mate.
Likewise, my friend. Likewise.
Good luck with everything. So, right, anyway, as Don Callis Impact Wrestling says, stay safe and stay over, and we will see you all next time.